What we all see in here is the sprouts from the lentils and the sprouts. I have grown those sprouts in 3 weeks, including 1 week in the fridge. This is a video for how to grow sprouts and make your own judgment for how healthy or for how easy they are to grow. It's a long video. If you wanna have more fun, speed it up to see what happens in 3 weeks of growth from this into the salad. People say sprouts are healthy, people say they have lots of vitamins, chlorophyll, valuable proteins and whatnot. Those are the lentil sprouts. In case you want to grow fun sprouts, try sunseed sprouts, sunflower sprouts. They are more tasty. Those taste like salad, like undercooked salad, bean salad. So this is one of the most slowest ways to cook beans and lentils. Take this, grow it for 3 weeks and eat it. So it's like one of the most slowest ways to cook beans or to prepare beans for consumption. I hope you like it. Say in the comments if you made any experience with growing sprouts on your own. Have fun, enjoy the long project. Let's have some fun, let's grow some sprouts. The vegan people, they say all the good things about the sprouts. Let's take those, soak them for 24 hours and see what happens on the next day. 24 hours later in the water, the lentils, the beans, the rice, the seeds, whatever you soak. 24 hours after the soaking, there's a simple step, remove the water. And now the air will activate the seeds, the beans, whatever you soak, and the sprouts will start to grow. Simple. You can also reuse the same container that you used for soaking. Put it on the side. The next few days, the steps will be simple. Just wet the bean sprouts or the sprouts of the seeds, just wet them a little bit and wait for another day. Let the water drip. Let's say the water all drip down. That's it, that's a basic setup. You can also cover up if the seeds or the beans are light sensitive, and cover them up. And repeat the wetness in a day. Let's see what happens in a day. "24 hours later in the kitchen environment. There's not much to see, but the sprouts have started to grow. Let's focus. Focus. Camera focus. Yes, one can see a little sprout at the edge. And the next steps are very easy. Let's give them some water. Just like that. Some watering, daily watering. Some people do it twice. Once in the morning, once in the evening. Good enough. Once or twice. It's gonna take maybe 3, 4, 5 days. All depending on the temperature, humidity, type of the seed. Just as simple like that. And cover up with paper maybe, if they are light sensitive, so there is a bit lesser light, like translucent light. That's it, let's see what happens on the next day. Once again, 24 hours later, in total, which is 3 days now, the sprouts have started to grow the roots. Roots, very nice roots. Smells okay, and I figured out it's better to cover the sprouts with a paper so that overnight it does not dry out that much. It dries out anyway. It's a simple half a cent solution. Works well. It distributes the water a little bit better, so it's not in one spot. That's how it's done usually. Other people, or traditionally the people put cloth or textile, a textile for the textiles, and it evenly wets and moisturizes the sprouts. It's actually simple. They have to grow like that for a week, so that all the lectins, or what they called, lectinas, so that all of them get diluted. All the toxins that attack the insects and the bones of the people, they get removed. And once they grow out, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Day number 3 of the sprouting experiment. It's very necessary to make these high pitches and attention grabbing voices, because YouTube is all about that. So we can see that the sprouts, they did become slightly larger. The root is starting to grow out, and you know when it's ready, when the leaves, 1 or 2 or 4 leaves are ready, and the plant did suck up all the toxins, and then it filtered them out, diluted them with water, processed them. At this stage it's not edible yet. It's a little bit toxic to the gut, because beans are natural toxic if you don't cook them well. Let's repeat, rinse and repeat. The sprouting process takes about 1 week. Water on, water in, as simple as that. Twice a day, 3 times a day. This morning or evening. That's it. Doesn't require much work. It's like cooking without the heat, or cooking without cooking. Later on, one can just eat it. Also depends on the time of the year, on the temperature of on the light. Let's see what happens on the next day. Day number 4 or 5, I lost my count. Let's see what's happening. The roots, oh yes, the leaves are finally starting to develop. One side is the root, the other side is the leaf. Still toxic, or not toxic, but not as healthy as it can be. It's an easy... Growing sprouts is very easy. Even kids could do it. It would be probably fun. Just twice a day water it. Keep it moisturized. And that's the amount of roots that starts to grow. Some of them have developed more roots, the ones at the bottom, which probably depends on the moisture. And like that. That's it. Done for today. Let's see what happens on the next day. 6 days have passed. The green leaves finally started to grow. Let's pull one out. The root is at the one end, and the leaf is at the other end. And when the 2 or 4 leaves develop, it's ready to be eaten. One observation: This setup is meant for the extra air, but look at all the roots that are down there. Maybe it's time to change strategy. Let's place the sprouts into the transparent container without the holes. Let's try that. This setup in the closed plastic container is a little bit different. You still have to water the sprouts, remove the water, like wash them. It's like washing them twice or 3 times a day. In this setup you have to remove the water. In the setup with holes, the water removes itself automatically. Let's fill that up. It's basically washing and moisturizing and soaking in one. Good enough, good enough. Let's remove the water. There are special sprouting containers that have lids with holes where you can remove the water without wasting any sprouts. But it's also possible to do it with basic tools. With very basic tools. And there is a danger of excess bacteria when there is too much water, so I'll leave some water but not too much. So that's about it for today. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Let's check on the sprouts once again, 1 day later. In the plastic container, which is permanently wet, it doesn't allow the water to evaporate. The paper blocks the evaporation and the paper is wet. In the case of the noodle sink, it was more dry and this one is more wet all the time, but you still have to wash it just to remove the excess toxins, lectins from the beans or whatever you're going to sprout. Just wash it once again. It's more like soaking and removing the water. In this case it doesn't wash. There are containers which have like a lid on top and the lid has holes, so you just fill it up with water, turn it over and leave it be for a day. In this case it's a very basic setup that even people in any country, in any location can do whenever you have seeds and a container and water. Sprouting is also said to be the future of something like space colonies where they don't have access to farming, or to Antarctica where you have to ship everything over. So some person is in charge of sprouting so that the local people get their vitamins that are in the green leaves. Good enough, good enough. Let's remove the water. So that's the basic process. Different containers require a different process. And the volume of the sprouts is starting to increase. First 2 leaves start to come out. When the second 2 come out, I could probably eat them. It's safer to eat. Also, it's safer to eat if you do the process and the container and the sprouts are clean. The major issue is when there is like E. coli or some other bacteria that is growing in the protein of the seeds or the fats. That's the major problem. That's why I have to wash them out. and keep the container very clean. Let's see what happens tomorrow. One day later again, the sprouts have grown in volume. Now the green leaves are starting to come out in almost all of the sprouts. This setup keeps them more wet because there is no way for the moisture to escape. The only way for the moisture to escape is to get soaked up by the sprouts. Let's water them or wash them once again for the day. Just like that. Let's have a look at one. So it's currently at this size. After a week of growth or so. Let's see what happens on the next day and if it will reach the final stage in 1 week and a half or 2 weeks. Not sure why it's lower than usual. Maybe it depends on the seeds or the temperature. It's slightly cold. Let's see what happens on the next day. And 1 day later it finally starts to be interesting. The sprouts have starting to grow in volume. Some of them develop the third and fourth leaf and they have more weight to them, so they soak up the water that you give them. At this stage they're still not ready, so it's turning into a 2-week project instead of a 1-week project. I tried one. It still has this taste of the undercooked beans, which is the taste of the lectins that can cause arthritis, leaky gut, digestive problems and whatnot. Yes, there are healthy vitamins, yes, there is chlorophyll, but at this stage it's not yet ready to be eaten. The project is still has to go on. Same stuff, water it every day, wash out the water, watch it grow. Let's see what happens in the next few days. On the next day it looks like the forest, so now in this phase we see an accelerated growth. Let's try one, how it tastes. Oh yes, now the roots, the side roots will start to come out. Let's try one. It still has the taste of lectins of undercooked beans, but slightly less. Yes, still the taste of undercooked beans, which means it's not safe to eat. Too many lectins. The experiment or the growth has to go on. So the people on the internet tell you, oh, you can grow the sprouts in a week, 8 days, 10 days. No, it's not safe to consume at this age. I think when they grow out and when they exhaust all the minerals and the material which is inside of the original bean or seed, then it's more safer. And the water, it kind of dilutes the lectins, so they cannot get any other nutrients, and they cannot form any new chemicals that make them toxic to insects and humans. That's why you don't put them into the soil, so they don't develop the protective and the toxins that protect them from the insects and small animals. Let's have the ultimate fun. The sprouts are gonna be the toughest sprouts there are. Let's put them into the fridge for a week. Just like that. Into the fridge for a week. See what happens. They'll probably activate some defensive structures or defensive mechanism to cope with the cold, and then they probably develop some nice properties to them. Okay, bye bye, see you in a week. 1 week later I return to the home and let's see what happens in the fridge. Okay, they are still going green, at least green, cold. Let's place them into the worm again and observe what happens. I think they have grown a little bit. Maybe it's an illusion, but I think they might have grown a little bit even in the cold. Still wet, so I don't have to water them. Let's put them into their warm natural environment and see what happens tomorrow. Let's see that. Let's do that. One day later, after removing from the fridge, I look at the sprouts. They're still going strong, like a forest. So they survived the mild cold of 5 or 4 degrees Celsius. No damage at all. I tried one. It still tastes like undercooked beans. I prefer not to eat them raw at this stage. So the vegan people, they lied a little bit. They say in 2 weeks and you eat them raw. I doubt that you can eat them raw because there is a taste of undercooked beans and the lectins which damage the bones and the cartilage in the fingers and bone connectors. I try to go as far as I can with them and then see if they still have this taste of the undercooked beans, and if so, I just cook them with something, some water or some soup. Let's see what happens later. One day later, the sprouts have grown to an even larger size. I can see they have a second leaf, second set of leaves. At the bottom there are strong roots. I tried one. It still tastes like undercooked beans, slightly milder. So I'm guessing that when the time passes and the lectins, they slowly dilute in concentration. But at this stage I wouldn't cook them, I wouldn't eat them raw. You still have to cook them to break down the lectins so they don't damage your bones. Let's keep going. Let's keep the experiment alive and see if the extreme vegans were right or not right. I think they lied about the growth and the health part of the sprouts. I think if they still taste like the undercooked beans, they are not healthy to eat. Trust the reasonable hippies and the vegans. Don't trust the extreme ones. On the next day, the magic forest of sprouts has grown even bigger. The sprouts are experiencing a level of high growth. Now the second layer of leaves is almost ready. I tried one. It still has the little bit of the taste of the undercooked beans, but it's getting milder and it's getting replaced by the taste of the green stuff, the chlorophyll was in the leaves. Kind of greeny. Nice. Even if it's not food, it's like a good decoration. You just wet it every day, slightly water it a little bit, and it's serving the purpose of decoration at the moment, not ready to be eaten. Later on, let's see what happens later on. I'll keep going with the project. These sprouts are entering the immense, massive growth. They exited the bucket. It's like a forest in the bucket at this stage. I tried one. It was more sweeter. So the bitterness and the lectins, they're slowly starting to go away. There are maybe 10 or slightly more 10 centimeters or slightly more in size. I just keep watering them, washing them till the taste is satisfactory, and if not satisfactory, then just cook them just like regular food. The vegans did promise that one can eat them raw. I still doubt that it's healthy to eat them raw at this stage. Maybe later, when the lectins are less dominant and the other things in the sprouts are more dominant. Let's keep going. One day later, the sprouts are totally out of control. They are exiting the buckets en masse. What I did different this time, I soaked them for 10 minutes additionally, just like the hydroponic farms do. I soak them for 10 minutes and then I just remove the water, so they kind of soak up the water and drink as much as they want to, and then later on I remove the water, and the rest of the day they are in the oxygen, in the natural atmosphere environment, so they can soak up all the gases that they want to, nitrogen, oxygen. It turns out that it actually boosts their growth by a centimeter a day or more. So they are now in the high growth phase. Let's try one. Still tastes a little bit like lectins, but more greenish. Definitely more consumable. Let's keep going. One day later in the evening, the growth level is at this stage. There is not much to document apart from the growth level. The process is the same: watering, removing the water, keeping it like this for a day, and adding water, removing water once a day. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Oh, let's try one for fun. Yeah, slightly milder. It's going into the right direction. The taste is getting milder. Let's see what happens on the next day. 2 days later, the sprouts keep growing like a mad machine, like an organic mad machine. I think the growth comes from the energy that was in the seed itself. It's a fun project that at this stage is like hydroponic farming. You see the roots on the bottom and the green organic material with the chlorophyll on top. Let's keep going, see what happens. It's finally starting to be sweet. The lectins, they finally start to be less and less and less, so they'll grow up. Let's see what happens and at which stage they will be edible. Let's keep going. This is the stage 2 days after the last update. This is what happens when they grow for 2 days. I soak them in water for 10 minutes, let them grow for 24 hours, and now they're reaching the final stage of the growth, which is nice. They almost exhausted all the nutrients from the original lentil seed. The taste starts to be milder. It looks like a fresh green salad. It smells like a fresh green salad. Almost ready to be eaten. Let's keep going, let's see what happens. I found out that the best thing for them is to, at this stage, is to soak them for 10 minutes and let them be for 24 hours. And they grow very well in semi-lit conditions with some lights from the window. Not much light, not much direct light. They like it. They exhaust all of the nutrients that were in the seeds. And they are healthy and fresh looking. Let's see what happens on the next few days and when will be the time when I can harvest them. Ta-da-da-da! The project has reached the final stage. The sprouts have grown outside of the bucket from here to there. Good enough. The project has to finalize because the roots, they start to become brown, and some of them start to grow mold. Like one seed, I've seen one seed that start to grow mold. So it's a time to harvest them. Let's try one. Good enough, greenish, a bit like salad. Let's turn those sprouts into a salad and see how well they have grown in 3 weeks. I pulled the sprouts out of the bucket by force. That's the final product. By weight, it's like a small cabbage, a substantial volume. Let's split it up, let's cut it up and see the result of the long project, 3-week long project. 1 week was in the fridge, so it probably doesn't count. The vegan people told me that it's like 1 week, 8 days. It's more like 3 weeks before you get to the nice taste. Let's split it up and see what's inside. That's how it looks like when you split the sprouts in half. Roots and the seeds on the bottom, and the long sprouts. The edible part is the greenish one. Let's look closer to the seeds. So let's take one seed. It got transparent. It got a little bit more brown. It's very consistent, has volume to it. Still tastes a little bit like starchy, a little bit like plant, a little bit like undercooked beans. So I'm going to cut away this part and just consume it as it is, like salad, a little bit washed and with salad. Not sure if it's very healthy to eat that. People say it's very healthy. At least it doesn't taste as harsh as in the beginning, so it will be more safe. And that's the other side. It's an interesting project. Doesn't take much work, just watering once a day, 20 times or 30 times in total, which would be half an hour of work maybe. Good enough. Okay, I hope you like it. I hope you make your own version of the sprouts. Make your own examples. Don't trust the vegan people that says within 1 week you can grow them. No, it takes a little bit more longer than that. Let's see if the space astronauts will consume this food, if it's safe for them, and how well the science goes. Make your own salad. It's like growing your own salad just with the help of seeds that you have at home. Have fun, make your own project.